Alright, so I've already talked about my favorite live action villain portrayals. Now, let's talk about the flip side. Here's my favorite live action hero portrayals. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. As I said up top, a couple weeks ago I did a favorite, live action villain portrayal because the villains need some love. And, I got a pretty good response on it, people just sharing their lists, their thoughts on it. And so, as promised, let's go ahead and do the flip side. Let's talk about my favorite live action hero portrayals. So, I've got a list of 6 for you guys, plus 2 honorable mentions. So with that said, let's jump into it. Alright, so number 6 is Christopher Reeves as Superman. This is probably one that's not going to shock anybody, especially people that are around my age. You grew up with the Christopher Reeves movies. That said, I will caveat this with, for me, I love Henry Cavill as Superman. That's my guy. But Cavill hasn't had the chance to transition into playing Superman as we all know and love the character in the comics, to see the message that he portrays and what he embodies. That is what Christopher Reeves did so well. He was a Superman in the sense that he stood for truth, justice, he stood for hope, just a beacon of positivity and everything. And you gotta respect what he did in those, I believe it was 5 movies. I loved them all. The first, I think 2 are still probably my favorite. But yeah, definitely gotta give a nod to the past on that one with Christopher. Like I said, I want to say that his movies, along with the Batman '89, were probably my intro into superhero movies. I was 5 or 6 at the time, so. And I still love them to this day. I actually probably should go back and watch a couple of the Superman movies now that I've talked about it. So, yeah, moving along. Number 5. This is one that I'm sure is on a lot of people's list. In my opinion, this gentleman and character should be on everybody's list. And that's Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, T'Challa. Let's take what bravery Chadwick was doing behind the scenes out of it as the character. I knew very little about Black Panther when it was announced that he was going to come into the Avengers, Captain America Civil War into the Avengers. But that said, when I did research the character just to kind of have an idea of what I was going to see going into the movie, Chadwick knocked it out of the park. He exemplified, I think, what T'Challa really stood for as a character, and then he just took it up to 11 because he's so good as an actor. And I love the Black Panther movie. It's one of those, like, I'm sad when the sequel comes, just because I know that he's not going to be in it, and it's one of those, when losing him was one of those rare instances where losing a celebrity kind of hit home because of what he passed away from. It's something that was a little more personal to me, and how many people I've lost to cancer. But that aside, I love it. I hope that he's, selfishly, I don't want him to be replaced because just of how good he was. I'm rambling a little bit here. I'm sorry. This is one of those where I wasn't sure how I was going to react when I talked about it, but I knew he was going to be on the list. I just wasn't sure how I was going to feel when I talked about it. So sorry for rambling and being a little emotional here on that one. So, but yeah, he in my opinion should be on everybody's list. It's one of the best hero portrayals of all time. All right, number 4. sometimes there are actors that are just born to play a part. Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man is one of those instances. Everything that I can think of when it comes to this Tony Stark Iron Man character, that's Robert Downey Jr. To me, I've always joked in the, what is it, 12 some odd 13 years that he played Iron Man consistently on screen. He didn't really have to act. He was just being Robert Downey Jr. with a different name, and he got to have a really cool suit and toys and this and that, you know. So, but I always joke that, but you've got to respect what he did. You know, I know it revitalized his career, but it was a momentum shift in comic book movies when Iron Man came out and it did as well as it did, and Marvel moved forward with building the MCU. They pretty much changed how you can kind of perceive comic book movies, because, you know, before that it was really just you had some of your characters. They got their movie trilogies and this and that. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man was another one. The X-Men. You know, you got the 2 Fantastic Four movies. But nobody had really built a universe, a connected, extended universe. And it was so cool to see the beginning of that, and of course to see where we're at now in 2022 with what the MCU has done. Others are trying to do this, DC probably most notably, and they're failing at it. You know, frankly, it amazes me that DC can have or had such an amazing connected animated universe, but their live action movie universe has frankly been run as a joke, and it sucks to see. You heard me mention Henry Cavill. That's someone that's unfortunately gotten wasted away. But you know, they have solid characters there. They just, you know, but that's for another time. We're gonna move along. We're gonna keep this upbeat and positive. All right. So my 2 honorable mentions. First one is Michael Chiklis as the Thing. You heard me mention those Fantastic Four movies. He was my favorite on screen of the team. You know, yes, Chris Evans as Human Torch was awesome. He was funny, but I could not take my eyes off of the Thing when he was on there, because here you had such an obscure character, and his you know, suit and everything was very, very practical in the prosthetics and everything that they had, and Michael nailed playing Thing. I loved it. You know, I still haven't watched the reboot, and I probably won't, of the Fantastic Four. Not because I'm like, oh, I don't want to see how and compare who plays the Thing in that movie to Chiklis. It's just, and it just one of those. It didn't grab me. These are movies that are all-time faves, and Chiklis, you know, some of his humor and back and forth banter with Johnny, I love it. I quote it all the time. A friend of mine, Carlos, and I, it's a running joke between the two of us to quote something. So yeah. And my next honorable mention, another nod back to my childhood. That's Jason David Frank as the Green and White Ranger. Yes, he did do the Red Ranger Zeo, and when one of the Dino Ranger shows came on, he was kind of the lead Zordon, you know, kind of character in Dr. O, and he played a black Dino Ranger. But it's those original 2, Green and White. He's probably the most synonymous actor with the entire Power Rangers universe, and rightfully so. He exemplified it for so long, and however many characters he played, he was in, I believe, both of the original movies. The first Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for sure. I believe he was in Turbo as well. So he was around for a long time, and much respect to him. I almost got the chance to meet him. Unfortunately, I had to work that day, so I do have a really cool signed Power Ranger shirt. But yeah, so that, and one last thing is, green was my favorite color. So when Power Rangers first started, I was kind of sad that there wasn't a Green Ranger. So when they gave me a green one, and he was that much of a badass, I was ecstatic. So Yeah, I'm just going to throw that in there. All right, so my top three. Um, I will preface this by saying that these are not really in order. These are just my three favorites. Um, I don't know if they'll be dethroned anytime soon, but you never know. That's things can happen. All right, so remember how I mentioned about Robert Downey Jr. just kind of born to play a character? Well, that's how this next gentleman is. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds is awesome. I am a huge fan. I love everything, just about everything that he's been in and does, but he lobbied so hard for Deadpool. They had that test screening, and then when they finally got the green light, they were doing the movie. All of the press that he was doing in the suit, the skits that he would do with people, and then you finally get the movie, and it is everything and more that you were hoping it was going to be. I loved it. I frankly didn't know anything about Deadpool really until I had watched the movie. Jay had explained a few things because Jay is one of the biggest Deadpool fans, and he has been ever since I met him. I've known Jay for 20 years now, and he was Deadpool, 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 Deadpool. So he's loved that character, along with Superman. Those are probably the two biggest ones I can think of when you talk about Jay in comics. So he loaned me a couple of his Deadpool comics. One of the first ones I read was Deadpool Kills Marvel Universe. That was awesome. Did a review of that one actually here on the channel. I haven't read the Scotty Young run yet. Jay has that one. And he tells me all the time it's awesome. I have Volume 1 of Deadpool Spider-Man crossover. That's awesome as well. He's one of those characters that the nice thing about him in comics is that he, no matter who writes him, for whatever reason, Deadpool is always a character that does well. The story always is something that grabs me. Whereas with a lot of other characters, there have been times where, depending on who's writing them, I'm not interested in it at all. But Deadpool is a consistent, always liked them. Yes, some stories more than others, but I've always liked the story. I've never really disliked anything. So yeah, Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. What else can I say? Alright, so the next one is my only TV one that actually is on the list outside of course, JDF as the Green and White Ranger. But this one is, obviously, like I said, top three. So, Stephen Amell, Green Arrow. I was a huge fan of Arrow for its entire run of 8 seasons. That is probably only my second favorite superhero TV show. You'll find out who the first one is here in a minute. But I can say that Steven and that show did for me is they made me want to read a Green Arrow comic. Truth be told, I was never that big on the character. I always thought he was just kind of a sidebar, really nothing important. And then Arrow comes on, and I start getting interested in the character. And when I started reading comics, I was interested in finding out about him. I didn't have that pre-notion that he's kind of a joke. He's really not. There's some amazing stories, and some of those you can kind of see grabbed from to be put on the show. So yeah, I don't know. I think personally, if they bring Green Arrow into the DC universe, they should just let Steven play it if he wants to. So yeah. All right. Last, certainly not least, this is my favorite character in comics. This is my favorite TV show. My favorite portrayal. Charlie Cox as Daredevil. The 3 seasons of that show blew me away. What Charlie did to be able to play, especially when he was Matt Murdock, and how well he did the blind thing was absolutely stunning. The fight scenes, that show was gritty. Everything that I had hoped Daredevil would be from knowing about him in the comics and what I read, that show did it in spades. And then, of course, she gave me one of the best Kingpins ever, who was on my other list. So, kind of see a little thing going here. But, yeah, Daredevil, I mean, what more can I say? Charlie basically just solidified why I love that character so much. And I'm so happy that it is back on Disney Plus and I get to watch it again. And I can't wait to see what they do with him in the MCU. And hopefully they bring that cast back and do another show, or maybe give them a big action and give them a movie on the silver screen. That'd be more awesome. All right. As always, let me know what you guys thought of my list. Let me know in the comments what yours are. If you like what you saw, of course, hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and notifications so that you know anytime we upload. You guys, please stay safe, stay healthy, and I will catch you next time. Later, everyone.